Just the ladies club night out. Okay, good evening. I will call to order the Plainfield Charter Township Board meeting for April 25th, 2022. We will start our meeting with an invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Jack. Jack?
Pray. Heavenly Father, great is your faithfulness. Throughout all of history, through wars, economic woes, and pandemics, you have carried us, and we trust that you will continue to do so. We ask for your favor upon this board meeting tonight. Help us be mindful of you as we deliberate. Clear our minds to think of all the implications of any issue. Give us unity as we respect our diversity. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brain flag a little bit there. Did you get up too quick?
Okay, first item is for us to review our consent agenda. If there's no questions, comments, or concerns, I would seek a motion for approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
I move to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and the accounts payable.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Support from Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Hagedorn.
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff.
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes. Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, first item on our agenda, number 7, is to consider a PUD amendment to expand the Valley PUD. I'm assuming that's what Peter's here for, so are we just passing the torch to Mr. Elam?
Hello. Well, the Valley PUD has been before us a few times in the last few years. They did a big expansion about 3 years ago. And then during that course of time, they acquired a house on the East Beltline, and they were going to convert it to an office. They determined after a while they didn't need that office, and then the house became a non-conforming use on that site, so we urged them to demolish it to be consistent with our master plan. They decided to come back with an apartment building on that location. It's a 6-unit apartment building with a density consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. They are buffered away from the belt line to give you a fairly decent setback from the belt line, and a sidewalk will be going in along the belt line to connect to the north to the apartment complex. North of there, I think it's North Vale Apartments, or forget the name of it right off the bat. But if you look at the aerial that Cameron has put up there, you can see we kind of pasted in the development to the north of them, of this particular piece of property. And that really is kind of it in a nutshell. The Planning Commission did grant them site plan approval, conditioned upon Township Board approval tonight at their last meeting in March, excuse me. And if the board is inclined to approve this tonight, then the applicant will have to wait through the publication period, but then they can come in and before a building permit and start building if they wish to proceed. And please let me know if you have any questions. The applicant, I know, is in the audience. That's all I got for you.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Pete. Do you have anything to add?
Not really much to add. This is, I think this is a good use of this site. This is a continuation of an existing property, and very pleased that the Valley has done a lot of reinvestment in their complex in recent years. So that's all I have.
Okay. This is a public hearing for this item, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of public here, but I will still ask if there's anyone who would like to speak to this issue. If not, I will close the floor for the public hearing, and we will move on to board discussion. Frank, how about you lead us off?
I'm set.
Thank you. Jack?
Likewise.
Thank you. Kathleen?
All set?
Thank you. Bill?
Ditto.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's fun to watch this thing finally come to a conclusion. So I'm good. So I would seek a motion at this time.
I move to approve the ordinances to amend to rezone 4243 East Beltline Avenue and a small portion of 4248 Pine Forest Drive from O Office to PUD, and to permit the expansion of the Valley PUD development based on the Planning Commission's recommendation and the findings and information provided in the staff report.
Thank
Support.
you. Thank you, Kathleen. Support?
I'll second that.
Okay. If you could just wait till I ask, please. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, new business. Item 8A is to consider replacement and repeal of our private road ordinance. Is this back to Peter, or are you gonna go? Okay, we're gonna defer to Pete again. You have an important role tonight, Pete. You're welcome.
All right, well, this is a revisit from about a year ago. We were asked to go back and work on something that would be essentially a compromise between our attorney's point of view and other points of view brought up at the public hearing at the last meeting. I think you've seen an email from Art saying that he's comfortable with this going forward here. Essentially what we've done is, rather than making an administrative process for departures, it now goes to the Planning Commission by in large part as a variance or something similar to a variance. So as an example, Art brought up in a recent email to the board, I believe, that about 7% grade, we're going from 10% to 7%, but there are instances where the Planning Commission can grant relief for that. And we know circumstances like that arise in this township because of our steep grades and elsewhere. And just a general summary of what this will do, we did a tiered approach for different types of development, which will help us deal with a lot of existing private roads that we have in this township to kind of retrofit them and make them better, safer roads, and then consolidate, get better legal descriptions out there, get better maintenance situations, that type of stuff, as well work with the fire department to improve public safety and that type of stuff. It also clarifies a number of issues that we've had in conflicts with the Land Division Act, cleans that stuff up. And lastly, it gives it a relief valve and pushes a lot of it onto the Planning Commission. You'll still see plenty of these, but they'll be more related to the private roads you get within site condominiums, as well as condominium and occasionally a rare private road that has more than 4 or 5 homes on it. So that's a brief summary of it. I know we went through it before, but if you have any other questions, please let me know.
Thanks, Pete. Cameron, anything to add?
I would only add that thanks to Pete and our planning staff for working with this, working through residents' concerns on this. Private roads are a very tricky issue, specifically for Plainfield, and as Pete alluded, not only do we have a large number of them through the years, but the topography makes them very challenging. It's really hard to improve an existing private road when it's been developed in a certain way, and development around it has kind of tightened the ability to change that or to reduce grades or whatever the problem may be. So appreciate the flexibility, and I think we've got some good amendments here.
Okay. So I will open the floor for any public comment on this issue, if there is any. Okay, I will close the floor then for that, and we'll move on to board discussion once again. Bill, do you have anything on this?
Is this gonna prevent us from having to go through a situation like we did on the Dean Lake, Buffalo, a couple of years ago?
It will not prevent the Dean Lake thing, because that's a site condominium. That will be the purview of the board, but if you remember the one on Airway, where there's just a lot of really odd circumstances, that'll put that more in the Planning Commission's venue.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Kathleen?
All set?
Thank you. Jack?
I was in contact with Art, and I appreciate his input on it. He did mention something about the width of the roads, and I was wondering that some of them are wider than what he would consider normal. Could you comment on that, Pete?
So what Art was commenting on is that there are some public roads that won't meet the standard for the private road. I think with the minimum 18 for serving 5 or more. That was modeled under a number of existing private road ordinances out there, so it's not uncommon. Ideally, you have 2 9-foot lanes for people to travel on with some shoulder on there. Not always going to happen in every circumstance, especially with some of the floodplains and swamps and different types of things we have around here, but that's why we built that relief valve in there. But Art is correct, there's Childsdale is too narrow, or is narrow, and in my opinion, too narrow to be conveying the traffic it has, but that's what it is in reality, what the road commission has designed it for. Hopefully that answers that.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm all
Thanks, Jack.
set.
Frank, you're all set?
Yeah.
Okay. I am all set as well, so at this time, I'd seek a motion.
I move to approve the proposed ordinance to adopt and adapt a new Plainfield Charter Township private road ordinance as proposed.
Thank you, Jack. Support?
Support.
Thank you, Frank. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes?
Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes.
Okay, item 8B is to consider a request from the Historical Advisory Committee to create a Plainfield Historical Society. Cameron, you want to go, or you want me to?
If you have anything to introduce, or I'm willing to do so.
I think Cameron's memo to all of us kind of speaks to the topic, but we've had a couple meetings with Brian and other folk from the advisory committee, us being the governance committee. So my two cohorts who aren't here tonight, I don't know what that means, but they're not here. In all seriousness, I think everybody in the room agrees that this is a really positive step forward for them, as they have a lot of ideas and things they want to do that, quite frankly, we hold them back from. By no means, though, are we severing our ties. We want to be there. We want to support their efforts, and as Cameron's memo clearly states. So if there's such a thing in government, this is a win-win situation, in my opinion, and I'm happy we got here. So with that being said, now I'll let you go. I hope I didn't steal all the thunder.
No, that was great. Thank you, Tom. I think I will add to that just some of the how do we get there from here steps. So we've had that preliminary discussion, and we do have the chair, Brian DeVries, with us tonight. And so there's agreement between at least the governance committee and the historical advisory committee, and a desire to create a historical society, which would be a separate nonprofit organization from the township. As Tom said earlier, it gives them some freedom, right? That gives them a whole lot more flexibility to do fundraising for larger projects, some freedom to take on whatever they want to take on without requiring the approval of the township, which is kind of a friction point at a number of times. Sometimes they want to do things a particular way or in a time frame that just doesn't meet up with what we're able to provide. So it does provide that freedom. How we get there from here, as Tom said, we want to support them in that effort, and so we would look to help them launch well, provide them the support, work with our township attorneys on making sure that establishing documents like the bylaws and the rules to create a nonprofit are set up appropriately and legally, so that they're off on a good foundation, and then enter into an agreement with this new historical society to represent the township at the Heiser Rivers Museum, so that there is a volunteer body to curate and to serve as the docents for the museum. We'd be looking to establish that relationship that we have today, but also with this new historic society. So we'd have a contractual relationship. Conceptually, the township would still retain the assets, and that'd be for preserving the asset in perpetuity, but also things like insurance. We don't want to sink this new historic society with maintenance costs, with insurance costs, all these things that would come with this historic building. We're not looking to sink this new group, but we would contract with them to be the curators and museum advocates for that asset. So things like that, we can continue the relationship in that way, and then they can go on and pursue other historical endeavors that they want to pursue.
All right, thank you, Cameron. Once again, public comment time. Brian, do you have anything you'd like to add? All right, thank you. So without any other public comment, I'll close the floor for that, and we'll move on to board discussions. Kathleen, do you have anything?
I think it's a great idea, great opportunity. They do a lot of good work, so just let them run with their great ideas.
Fantastic, thanks. Jack?
The only question, yeah, I think it's a good idea. The only question I had to do with insurance. There's both building insurance and liability insurance, and how is that going to be handled?
So that's an excellent question. I think that's a key question. So the concept would be that the township would still own the Heiser house, and that way we can protect it, include it in our insurance as we have it today, so that the building, the liability, all of those things of that property would still be on the township. It'd still be a township asset. The other advantage too, there's a certain amount of governmental immunity from lawsuit. Say you trip on a sidewalk that is properly maintained, you can't sue the government for your own tripping on a sidewalk. The same somewhat, to a certain degree applies here as well. Now, if it falls into, derelict case and someone hurts themselves from that, you can be sued as a local government. But it does protect the Historical Society if we maintain the Heiser House and own it, and then have a contractual relationship for them to be the museum curators.
I think that answers my question, although I don't know enough about the insurance industry to know whether there could be an instance where somebody is sued and our insurance doesn't cover them because of this change. The attorney might have to check that out.
That's something we can look into, certainly.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Bill, do you have anything?
Yes, I have a question. What does this really buy us here with this establishment of this? I mean, maybe Frank can answer that.
Well, I think as Tom and Cameron have stated, it allows the Historical Society to fundraise, and, we have different ideas and things we want to do that we had to go through the township every time we want to get something approved. And so I think that as a society, allows us more flexibility to pursue the historical endeavors that we want to pursue. And the fact that the township's covering all the costs as far as insuring the building and stuff, that's a good thing too for us. So I think, like I said, I think it's a win-win.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Frank, are you?
I'm all set,
Okay,
yeah.
yep. I already spoke my piece, so I'm good too. So at this time, I'll seek a motion.
I move to approve the use of staff time and the township's attorney to create a Plainfield Historical Society as presented.
Thank you, Frank. Support?
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn.
Yes?
Mr. Pfaff.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Mr. Postma, yes.
Okay, you're on.
All right. Well, that was a quick meeting. Jen and I were having a little bit of a bet before the meeting. I was guessing 40 minutes. She said 32, I think. 35? Hour and 26 was our first guess.
You should have opened the poll to all of us there. We should have each put $1 in there, and, we can't do that. That's just a joke.
Pete, they still don't have my method down, do they?
So appreciate the, a lot of these were very straightforward, but I appreciate everyone doing their homework ahead of time, asking good questions, and that makes for a very quick and fruitful meeting. Just looking ahead to some of our meetings coming up, we've had a number of requests for presentations for the next couple of meetings. So those might go a little longer than what we're at, 19 minutes so far. Those might go a little bit longer the next couple of meetings, but it's good stuff. We've got LPGA group coming in. Of course, they've got their tour coming up on Father's Day again in June. So they'll tell us about their latest preparations and changes for the tournament this year. Next meeting, we will have presentation from KDL, their annual report, and explain what they're doing in our libraries. We'll also have another recognition of Best Tasting Water Award. So we'll have someone on hand for that as well. So we do have some other business that we'll attend to those meetings as well. But I do have an opening on the meeting of June 13. The agenda is blank yet, so I'm holding that for a workshop, so we don't have to set a separate date. And that's a follow-up from our last meeting where we talked about a number of things with different funding sources and different funding needs, and putting that all together and really putting that into the completion of our strategic plan. So let's plan on June 13 being a workshop format. It's a regular board meeting night, but we'll do more of a workshop format that night. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at for upcoming events for the board, so we can get all of our work accomplished. And I do appreciate these meetings because, as many as you recall, it was just a few years ago, we had meetings that were not so short and not so enjoyable, right? That was a whole different time and a whole different environment. So one other thing, thank you for those of you that were able to complete your cyber training for, we're working on through staff. Everyone did that, right? No? No? Okay. Okay, if everyone didn't get it, take a look at your email, your township email. We're going through some training to make sure that everyone is diligent about understanding phishing scams and how those might work.
I saw it, but I didn't know that, okay, I'll look further into it.
So we can always resend it too if anyone didn't see it, but really we're trying to ensure that we've got 100% education on the matter. It's such a prevalent issue, and even before it became more well-known in the last couple of months, it's really an issue. And, good case in point, I have gotten an email before from someone claiming to be our supervisor saying, hey, I need some gift cards for an event I'm going to. Can you get those to me? They're very specific. They know what they're going after and they know how to do it. So we do need to be savvy because there are bad actors out there looking to trick us out of our funds at any given time. So thank you for everyone who's gone through that. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Board comments? Frank?
I'm all set, thank you.
Good, you're welcome. Jack?
I noticed that the road commission was on Rogue River doing some surveying work, and I do know that the Plainfield Country Club is making some changes to their clubhouse. And I don't know if it's connected to that or whether it's connected to the trail system, or do you have any idea, Peter?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Got it?
Go for it, Pete.
Kind of all the above,
Yep.
for the most part. They're looking at doing a Michigan turnaround there to abate the traffic issue, so they've been working on right-of-way acquisition in that area, as well as there's some improvements for Blythefield coming, and some of those issues out there. And then, was there a third issue that you brought up, Jack?
Well, it was the new clubhouse. They had said something. I know there's going to be an interim clubhouse in that area, and I thought it's possible that could be it.
All of these things are coming to a head at about the same time, so it's coming down to.
So maybe I describe what Pete's talking about a little bit further here. So you're probably aware on Cutsill, the developer of the Ravines project is required to do some improvements to this intersection. The problem is, the initial traffic study suggested a right turn lane, which is not all that valuable here. It really doesn't help alleviate the traffic problems. There's stacking issues here. So what the Road Commission is looking at is redesigning this entire intersection so that all traffic will have to turn right and then do, just like on the Beltline, we'll have to do a U-turn if they want to go left. So that this is, if it's busy, you know that this is either nearly impossible to make this left or it's very dangerous. They're looking to alleviate that problem. So that's part of what they're working on through this area.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Thanks.
Kathleen? Oh, sorry, Jim Moore? Okay, Kathleen?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Bill, do you have anything?
Certainly do. The ceremony for Memorial Day is well underway. We've got a real good response to it. And I look forward to having one of our truly Memorial Day meetings. That takes you off the hook, Jack. He's doing well, and we might have a few surprises for you, who's gonna come. The other thing is, I'm on the cemetery committee too. That's a very lively group down there. And we are moving, and we will be having a day in the cemetery park the Saturday of Memorial Day. and that's where the people come out and they really show the park or the cemetery. They're making good progress on the leaves and everything. I notice it every day when I go home and I look at it, what the situation is. And I certainly see the need for the trimming of the trees. We've had one of our members of the committee step up and voluntarily gave the township, I think it was $2,820 to put the fences around there and everything like that. He donates that in honor of his wife there. You probably know about that already, Cameron, I think.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, okay, Alan McAvoy donated that at the last meeting to the township to put that around it. And Timmy's, has all the information on it and approved it, so looks like that'll just beautify the park, and that's what he was after, so. But we will have a day in the cemetery on the, I think it would be probably the 28th, which is a Saturday, and please come down. Barbara's providing goodies.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Just a couple things from my side. Tomorrow's groundbreaking ceremony at Tommy's Boats, 3:30 and tomorrow afternoon if you'd like to attend that. The other thing from the Comstock Park DDA, at our last meeting, we had a presentation from the county about the water wheel there, the restoration of that, and then kind of the completion of that little section of the park, if you will. Pretty close to $1 million is their guesstimate as to what that's gonna cost, about $800,000. They said they could come up with $100,000, and the DDA voted to spend up to $200,000 to help get that thing up and going. The county is gonna work with us to try to solicit other donations and funds to make that happen, but
What's that going to do, generate electricity at that price?
unfortunately, they're of the opinion that they cannot make the wheel turn for liability reasons and some other things, maybe kind of Eagle-related, if you will. So it'll be, the proposal that we saw would be kind of a LED light kind of thing that would maybe trick your mind into the fact that it might be moving, but it won't be. Very nice plan that Brian put together, but we got a long ways to go for money, huh? So that's it. That's all I got. So with that being said, we are adjourned.